Vampiric dragons are among the most fearsome and rare undead creatures to haunt the worlds of Dungeons & Dragons, particularly within the lore-rich Forgotten Realms settings. These terrifying creatures blend the raw destructive power of a dragon with the insatiable hunger and insidious abilities of a vampire, creating a truly nightmarish foe. They're not merely dragons afflicted by a curse, they are transformed beings, often embracing their undeath for enhanced power or as a twisted form of immortality. On a personal note, these monsters take the vampire, a form of undead I absolutely have no love for whatsoever, and combine them with dragons, which is just an absolute nightmare situation. Would you like to know more? Well, settle back, grab yourself a tasty beverage. It's time to get deeply nerdy. The transformation into a vampiric dragon is a grim process, typically occurring when an existing vampiric dragon drains a living dragon completely of its life essence. Adult or older dragons slain in this manner may rise as a new vampiric dragon, often subservient to their creator. Younger dragons, although slain by the vampiric dragon's energy drain attack rather than blood drain, might instead reanimate as mindless zombie dragons, further adding to the creature's unholy legions. In some rare instances, particularly noted in settings like Eberron, potent confluences of negative energy or obscure, powerful dark rituals can also lead to the spontaneous creation of a vampiric dragon without a direct progenitor. Some dragons might even willingly seek out this transformation, driven by a profound fear of death or an insatiable lust for greater power, choosing vampirism over other forms of undeath like lichdom. Vampiric dragons largely retain their original draconic form, but their appearance is corrupted by their undead state, of course. They often appear a paler, more gaunt version of their living selves, with necrotized greying wings and skin that might seem sickly or diseased. Their eyes typically glow with a feral, blood-red light, and their fangs become even more pronounced and predatory. The key characteristic shared with humanoid vampires is their lack of a shadow and absence of reflections in mirrors. Inherently evil, often chaotically evil in alignment, vampiric dragons are driven by a desire for death, destruction, and the sating of their unholy thirst. They are cunning hunters known to spread false rumors about their treasure hoards to lure unsuspecting adventurers into their lairs. Their greed persists in undeath, with their hoard often serving as a more potent anchor than a vampire's coffin. However, dragons are magical creatures and quite capable of creating magic items. Most are solely for the use of dragons, of course, so this is not widely known as an aspect of their nature, as the items usually blend into their draconic form to serve to enhance it, like fine jewelry. For example, well, we'll get to a specific example of that later in the video. The transformation grants many additional undead powers to the dragon. While they retain their formidable natural weapons, their immense strength, flight, natural immunities, and resistance to elemental magic and damage, many also keep the draconic breath weapon, but some don't. What they gain is the ability to drain blood and vital energy from victims, transforming them into fanatically loyal vampire spawn, or even transforming other dragons into the vampire. So they gain a transformed dragon fear in the form of a domination gaze, crushing a victim's willpower and compelling them to serve it, or just leaving them cowering in fear in a puddle of their own urine. And to make it worse, this is most effective against draconic creatures. Sorry, Dragonblood Warlock. Turns out there is a big drawback to being tainted with a dragon essence from birth. How unfortunate. They gain the ability to transform into mist, slipping in or out of seemingly obscure locations with ease, hard to detect and perfect for infiltration, and also as a means to escape its potential destruction. And hey, dragons probably have spells that allow them to drain energy in mist form as well, very similar to a terrible monster with those same abilities I encountered up near Icewind Dale. Or was it 10 Towns? Oh no, it was after that wedding in Citadel Adbard where I got snowed in by a blizzard. Closing the mountain pass I was halfway through, but that's another tale for later. The vampiric dragon also has eyesight and other senses that surpass their mortal kin. Superior dark vision, yes, but also reflected in abilities that give them quite an advantage when it comes to initiative checks, reflex actions, and just generally moving faster than anything their size rightfully has a right to move. Plus, of course, they cast no reflection in mirrored surfaces. Vampiric dragons are often compared to another powerful form of draconic undead, the Dracolich. While both are formidable, they possess distinct advantages and disadvantages, influencing why a dragon might choose one form of undeath over the other. The choice between becoming a vampiric dragon or a Dracolich often hinges on tactical advantages, such as the vampire's dragon's superior ability to create and control powerful minions directly, including the power to turn other dragons into vampire spawn or zombies. While the Dracolich doesn't typically create other Dracoliches, they do usually command other powerful undead through its innate necromantic power. As a vampire, the dragon has vulnerability to all of the traditional vampire kryptonites. Direct exposure to sunlight can be endured for only a limited time. The power of blessed symbols and holy water, a large wooden stake through the heart, and for a dragon, they are bound to their treasure hoard just as a humanoid vampire is bound to their coffin, or more precisely, the dirt they were buried in, usually contained in a protected coffin or other secure chamber where they must return in the hours of the day. For all intents and purposes, appearing very much dead rather than merely sleeping. The other weaknesses of the vampire dragon is their need to feed on blood, or more precisely, the life force of living victims, easily absorbed from the blood, which obviously has no other sustaining purpose in a creature that is dead, with no metabolic requirements for organic nourishment. But the compulsion to crave blood is extremely strong in these apex predators, more so than humanoids, who don't normally feed on other living creatures in the first place. This vital energy can be attained by a variety of other means to the highly intelligent and magically adept dragon, and I'll give you a full license to come up with all manner of abominable methods that a vampire uses to do so. For example, while there's no law to support it, I see no reason a dragon couldn't simply touch a healing potion and turn it into some pretty but useless liquid, drained of its vital power. Wards and runes of power are certainly commonly used by dragons, and there are those the vampire could install in its lair that would continually funnel vital energy from living intruders who'd failed to resist their effects, weakening them and sustaining the vampire dragon even as they attempt to destroy it. Vampire dragons also have to contend with the requirement to be invited into private dwellings, and take note of the specific words used, a private dwelling. So, using the transformation magic, a vampire dragon has no issue inviting itself into a public town hall for a gathering, like a formal celebration or some such. There's nothing stopping a vampire dragon from simply destroying the private dwelling. However, so its power over them is more a matter of detecting them than really protecting yourself from them. The good news is that any larger structure that contains private dwellings, such as a castle or underground dwarven complex, is also covered by that protection. It's a fairly simple matter for a vampire dragon to infiltrate locations with their non-vampiric minions, who have the power to invite them inside. In an emergency, fleeing into a private dwelling the dragon has not infiltrated and can't simply destroy can mean the difference between life and death. A few weaknesses the vampire dragon doesn't have compared to humanoid vampires is that running water, garlic, or mirrors are no deterrent to it at all, though nobody seems to know exactly why that is. Vampiric dragons are exceedingly rare in the Forgotten Realms and other D&D settings. Their existence is often the stuff of terrifying legends, and an encounter with one is a significant event. They serve as an excellent big bad evil guy, or BBEG, for high-level campaigns, manipulating networks of lesser vampires and cultists, amassing power from the shadows, or directly terrifying regions. Their ability to turn other dragons into undead thralls makes them a unique threat to draconic society itself, often viewed as anathema even by other evil dragons. I have just a couple of known examples from the lore. They are Ja-Nadir Daor and Kap No-Lital. Ja-Nadir Daor was an ancient green vampiric dragon who lived in Mount Thulbane in Threskill, a region ruled by dragons for over 134 years now, in many ways a source of some inspiration for the dragon princes of Murgome, not too far away as the drake flies. Ja-Nadir Daor was described as having scales of alternating light in dark green and yellow eyes. He was so big that he even towered over blue dragons. The self-styled viceroy of Threskill, Ja-Nadir Daor served the powerful Dracolich Alaskler Banbastos, along with other vassal dragons installed as local lords by the Dracolich, and at least one other occasion sent them to devastate the independent city-state of Morktar, which later became the capital city of all Threskel. Eventually, the vampire dragon switched sides and betrayed his Dracolich overlord in one of the more pivotal battles between the nation of Threskel and that of the bordering nation of Chesenta. Later, Ja-Nadir Daor became deeply involved in another vampire dragon schemes and served as a Darax to him in the game of Zorvantal, taking place among the dragon princes of Murgon mainly. Kap No-Lital is kin to true dragons, but he is a vampiric smoke drake and is more commonly known as Brimstone. To the unsuspecting eye, Kap No-Lital often presented himself as a normal, albeit imposing, adult smoke dragon. This form featured scales of reddish-black hue, a common characteristic of his kind. However, this appearance was a meticulously maintained illusion, designed to conceal his true, far more sinister nature. Beneath the facade lay the horrifying reality of an undead vampire. In his true form, Kap No-Lital exhibited the ghastly traits of vampirism. Pale, gaunt draconic frame, eyes that burned with blood-red intensity, and overall feral cast to his features. As a vampire, he cast no shadow and possessed no reflection. One of Kap No-Lital's most iconic abilities was his power to transform at will. His favoured alternate form was a swirling cloud of embers and smoke, granting him exceptional mobility, stealth, and the ability to infiltrate or escape seemingly secure locations. He also adopted the form of a tiny bat, further enhancing his versatility and movement and evasion, though he could not speak in this state. As a vampiric creature, Kap No-Lital was immune to a host of effects that could cripple or destroy living beings. These immunities included mind-affecting spells and abilities, poison, sleep effects, paralysis, stunning, disease, and death effects. It was also resistant to any effect requiring a constitution save unless it also worked on objects. Kap No-Lital also possessed a powerful magical collar described as a diamond choker. This artifact allowed him to roam far from his lair and treasure for extended periods, a freedom denied to most of his vampiric kin. This collar was unfortunately destroyed during his climactic confrontation with the archmage Samassa. However, a small fragment of it reputedly remained, which Kap No-Lital kept safely within his own body, perhaps retaining some echo of its power or as a memento of his past. I've noted over the years that dragons do tend to do this with magical items fairly often, embedding them into their body as a form of magical augmentation, beyond the capacity of most non-draconic beings. Kap No-Lital was a skilled sorcerer, with lore suggesting he attained the equivalent of 10th level sorcerer in D&D 3.5 edition terms, complementing his already formidable advanced smoke drake durability. He was a brute with a brilliant mind. Kap No-Lital fancies himself a scryer, proficient in spells that allowed him to magically view and contact individuals across great distances. His known repertoire also included a spell to shoot fire darts and a charm to enhance his own speed, making him a versatile magical combatant. Kap No-Lital's dark genesis lies with the archmage Samassa, the infamous mage who founded the Cult of the Dragon and pioneered the creation of Dracoliches. While researching the path to Dracolichdom, Samassa experimented with the various forms of undeath on draconic subjects. Kap No-Lital, then an ordinary smoke drake, was one such subject. He reportedly allowed Samassa to transform him into a dragon, perhaps hoping to gain favour, power, and prestige in the New World Order Samassa prophesied. However, Samassa eventually deemed vampiric dragons less useful than Dracoliches and effectively discarded Kap No-Lital. This betrayal ignited a deep-seated desire for vengeance in the vampiric drake, becoming a primary motivation of his for decades. Despite his malevolent nature, Kap No-Lital played an unexpectedly heroic role during the turbulent period known as the Rage of Dragons. In 1373 of the Dale Reckoning calendar, learning of the Green Dragon Karasendriath's quest to understand and halt the Draconic Fury, Kap No-Lital offered his assistance. He travelled to Karasendriath, the human ranger Dawn Greybrook, and their companions. While pursuing his own agenda of undermining Samassa, Kap No-Lital's actions proved crucial. He was instrumental in reversing the Varsan Horde, a force stirred up by Samassa to sow chaos, and notably saved the life of Gareth Dragonsbane, the King of Damara. His contributions were vital in the eventual discovery of Samassa's secrets and the destruction of the dragon mythal that fueled the Rage of Dragons. For these acts, many dragons across Faerun hail him as a hero, though some believed he perished in the final confrontation. Following Samassa's destruction, Kap No-Lital experienced a period of emptiness. He lingered in Samassa's former citadel, searching for a new purpose. His search led him to discover information about an ancient and dangerous draconic custom known as the game of Zorvantal, a complex game of power, influence, and intrigue played by mighty dragons. Fascinated, he delved deeper, even travelling across the outer planes to master its intricacies. For more information on the game of Zorvantal, look at the video that I have on my channel, all on that subject. In the year 1479 of the Daor Reckoning, Kap No-Lital returned to Toril, specifically to the floating island of Dracolich, to initiate his own grand Zorvantal. He contacted numerous powerful chromatic, gem, and metallic dragons, subtly binding them to participate in a game using a potent, hidden spell. His machinations drew the attention of figures like the Dracolich Alaskur Bastos and the formidable red dragon Shazar. While the Brotherhood of the Griffin attempted to thwart this game, Kap No-Lital allowed Alaskur Bastos to rally dragon allies to attack them. However, after the Battle of Luchek, leaders of the Brotherhood, along with the Dragonborn Knights of Tiamat, confronted Kap No-Lital at the Dracolich. They compelled him to break the magical bonds tying the dragons to his Zorvantal. Before disappearing to an unknown fate and location, Kap No-Lital chillingly claimed that the entire game had been a sophisticated ruse designed to eliminate the most powerful dragons around the Sea of Fallen Stars. Kap No-Lital is a primary figure from Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition lore, featured prominently in the Year of Rogue Dragons novel trilogy by Richard Lee Byers and later in the Brotherhood of the Griffin series. In game terms, 3.5 edition, he was a formidable entity, an advanced 36 hit dice smoke drake with 10 levels of sorcerer boasting a challenge rating of 33. This placed him among the most powerful unique adversaries one might encounter. While this video is primarily for Dungeon Masters or just those interested in fantasy lore, I have a heart, and in the description of this video is a link to an article specifically for players seeking tactical training on how to effectively combat vampiric dragons. I hope it saves a few lives. After all, I don't want to encounter any more undead adventurers if I can possibly avoid it, so a bit of prevention is better than a cure, such as a highly expensive resurrection spell. And with that, my name is AJ Pickett, your lore host with the most. This coming month, I have a lot of videos covering the very politically complex and highly concerning lands to the far east of Faerun, and what I consider to be the impending draconic apocalypse. If that interests you, please subscribe to the channel and learn all there is to know. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.